Everybody can use AI, right? So it's like you don't differentiate on your content or your programs or your things are 85% when the competitor is 75%. Like that's not the win. The win is now how you go from 80 to 90 and then from 90 to 93, 94, 95, and you're going to win that deal or that attention battle if you're at 96 and others are going to be at 95.5. Like it's that close, right? Like the playing field has been leveled. It's with AI. It's just a fact. For me, I come from category design, school of thoughts. I don't know how much that still is valid today with AI, but that's always been kind of like my thought process. So I think to nail your POV, it starts with nailing your villain. You need to pick a villain. Good old Hitchcock quote, which is, the movie is only as good as the villain is, or whatever. That's what it is. And so at Gong, for example, back in 2020, opinions was our villain. And then we would help teams move from opinions to reality.
Hello, and welcome back to Best Story Wins. Today, our guest is Julian from Cordial. Hey, Julian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, and hi, everybody.
So, Julian, as we jump in here, can you just start us off with a brief overview of who you are, what you do, and what your backstory is?
For sure. Yeah. Julien Sauvage. I'm a CMO at Cordial today. I would say I obviously come from France. I don't think I can hide my accent. Career-wise, I spent the majority of my time in B2B SaaS, 5 years at Salesforce, 2 years at Gong, almost 3 years at Clary. I kind of like that inflection point where a given company needs to sharpen their positioning and kind of like scale revenue without losing its soul. I insist on that, without losing its soul. I live in San Francisco. I'm a dad of 2 little dudes.
So kind of the topic at hand that a lot of people are talking about, like with your background in SaaS, I imagine you might have a take on this, but there's this idea that, AI is kind of eating the SaaS market. We're seeing that, affect public markets right now, but I'm curious, what's your take on that? Is that real or does SaaS have some life left in it?
I think the threat is very real, but I think all the headlines around SaaS is dying are just, headlines, right? It's a little bit of a lazy take. So if you inspect what's going on, I think there's nuances that are worth discussing. The first thing I would say is when you hear cloud code and cursor and AI kind of like killing engineering and products, I think that's just a lie. AI takes you to like the V1, but the V1 is maybe 2-3% of the work, right? If you remember, like the V1 of Salesforce back in 1998 has nothing to do with the Salesforce that people buy and use and probably hate today. So I think the real value is what comes after the V1. And yes, AI can help with that, but it's still going to be a lot of sort of human intervention, if you will. So I don't think AI is killing product and engineering. What is happening though, and the real threat is more, I believe, on the budget side. And I believe Jason from SaaStr wrote about this, where he said the AI budgets are doubling year over year when the overall SaaS and IT budgets are pretty flat. And so I think what it means is there's just going to be more pressure for B2B SaaS companies and products to make sure they capture some of that AI spend. And to do that, they need to be AI first, AI native. Otherwise, that budget is going to be lost on them. So it's less the death of SaaS, and it's more the end of like SaaS and autopilot, where we have plenty of budgets to go after.
I think it's an interesting take. And one thing I saw just this last week was that Anthropic, of all companies, are hiring a Salesforce admin. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I think it kind of goes counter to some of the narrative that every company is just going to vibe code tools that unseat the legacy SaaS companies. On the CMO role itself front, Julian, how has that role changed since you started? I know there's a lot of hot takes about how that role's shifting. What's your take?
Yeah, I think it has changed a lot, right? As we just said, I think it's less about brand and pipeline or scaling the team and whatnot, and it's more about sort of like proving your relevance to be able to go after these AI budgets that we just talked about, right? So that's the main mission of the new CMO. Now that budgets are being reallocated to AI, seat counts are under pressure. More pipeline, it's not enough to to justify the whole model. So I think the CMO role has sort of moved from an Uber campaign or go-to-market architect to a capital allocator, in a way, like somebody who's able to understand where buyers' money is going and where it's flowing inside your company, inside your customers' companies, and make sure the products sit in the protected budget line and not the optional line. Um, Otherwise, you can have perfect positioning, beautiful go-to-market engines. If that budget isn't there because it's taken by AI, then you're never going to be able to sell your product.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart take about kind of thinking about where the budgets are coming from. I'm curious, like, as the CMO role has evolved, has it also become more technical with the use of AI? You mentioned kind of moving away from maybe some of the big creative campaign focus, but is that technical element a change?
100%, it has changed. I think there's no way a CMO can get away with his job or their job without being technical. You have to be to better understand the workflows, see where AI can automate some of those workflows. So that requires just a deeper understanding of not just the technical aspects of the job, but also the day-to-day, the jobs to be done, the before and after, how you measure success of a given program. So you just have to go deeper and be more technical, be more AI savvy. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, it was my first board meeting at Cordial, my new gig. It was about a year ago, and some of the board members were like, "Oh, cool, you're gonna do brand stuff. Okay, what does that mean?" I don't like good old objection around brand, right? And they were like, "What's the implication on pipeline?" And I knew that question would be coming up. And instead of saying, we hope it's going to convert into pipeline, I actually had built a custom GPT, which would correlate some of the brand activities with pipeline with a lag, like a bit of a correlation analysis. And I could show them like, yo, if you increase, say, social impressions by 10% this month, this is going to convert into a lift in pipeline in 3 months from now. And I have actual data and proof to show that. And everybody on the board was like, oh, cool, that makes sense. So to like get that, like earn that credibility and that trust from your peers and your stakeholders and your board members, you kind of have to go a little deeper and a little technical. And I had to build my first ever custom GPT, which, by the way, wasn't so hard. It's not that hard. And so I think everybody can and should do that for sure.
So one of the things that we talked about a couple weeks ago when we chatted was this idea that everyone seems to be dealing with right now. I guess you could call it a reality, which is this do more with less concept. And there's a lot of takes on LinkedIn about that. And I think everyone has a perspective on what that means. You mentioned also too that your team was successful in hitting pipeline goals after a RIF. And so what's key for you in actually being able to realize that concept of doing more with less without burning people out and without just failing miserably?
It's very hard. Don't get me wrong. We did have a riff about maybe a year ago at Cordial, and yet we did hit our revenue and our pipeline goals after. So there's ways you can emerge and win again. But it can be demoralizing, of course, when you hit that rock bottom moment. I think for us, it was a lot of not do more. It was do less, but better. That's what it was, man. It was just like we cut a bunch of stuff, like random acts of marketing, fewer campaigns. Like we stopped doing sponsored events because there was no money left or nobody to do them, and we went a little scrappy and started like hosting our own events. And then you go from a big trade show sponsorship, which probably costs over 100K, to like a 10K exec dinner. And guess what? If your product is still relevant in the market, well, people are going to show up and pipeline is going to get created of that. So I think it was just a matter of like being really clear on all the things we would completely stop doing with no afterthought, and then focusing on less things but execute better on them. In a way, it was painful, but it really did bring us a renewed sense of focus, I guess.
Yeah, that kind of prioritization resonates. I mean, I think we all hope to be able to make those hard decisions about, doing the few things that matter. I'm curious if there were any other, like when you think about the execution part of that and executing better, were there any other areas where you saw or where you were able to achieve efficiencies within that, or was it doing things the same way but just less of them?
I think it's a good question. I think we started putting a little more budget against like sort of like research and testing and things like that, which was not really quite the case before. So before we would put like, say, budget on like brand campaigns, or like a web agency to revamp the homepage, and then you hope it works, but you never know. And so we kind of like say if we had $100 before, we would put $100 against that thing that would ship and be like external facing. And I think after the calibration and the riff, say now we went from $100 to $80. Instead of putting the $80 against that asset that you're going to ship, we would put 20 against research and testing, and then only 60 against the go live. So it was in a way just more balanced or more calibrated in a way, to make sure that when we because we cannot ship that many things, we don't have much budget, the team is smaller, but when you ship it, you have to make sure it really hits the mark. And there's no better way to do that than focus group testing, A/B testing, some research and whatnot. So I think it just forced us to, again, embrace maybe a more customer-centric, I know it's a dumb thing to say, everybody says that, but a more customer-centric approach to all the things we're shipping.
Jumping off that question about doing more with less, AI oftentimes is referred to as like a silver bullet, right? Like if you lose headcount, just use AI to get your job done. That's going to be your new favorite, thing, right?
So annoying.
Yeah, right. But what I find to be also annoying is just there are very few conversations where people are talking about how they actually use AI beyond just saying they use AI. So what does that look like for you and your team? I know you mentioned that great example about the custom GPT, but are there other examples that you can share?
Yeah, man. Yeah, there's plenty of them, and I think there's plenty more that we still need to explore. To be honest, I think there's hundreds of use cases. What I will say is, well, the obvious ones we started doing using AI pretty early on. So all the content creation stuff, right? We've been using both Claude and ChatGPT. We recently switched to Claude Enterprise for Cordial, which is cool because it just gives you access to more things, more models, including Claude Code, Claude Cowork. I started using Claude Cowork for some like actual end-to-end agentic stuff. So we started with, I would say, with the basics, right? Content creation. We then moved in, and we're still doing that. We then moved into competitive intel, which I think is a really good one for AI to automate or help with. So like I built an agent that tracks any change on any web page for our top competitors. And every time there's a big change on one of their pages, I get an email alert, and then I can put that into like the competitive intel Slack channel. Like that's so easy to do. Like it's really easy to do that. Another use case is we built another custom GPT. That's not an agent, but it's a custom GPT that would mine, gong calls to go and find like what's top of mind for the buyer or for the client right now, and just have like voice of the customer themes that we would then use in our thought leadership content and whatnot. So content creation, competitive intel, voice of the customer stuff, like it's not fancy. It's really easy to do, and I would encourage everybody listening to, if you haven't done that yet, just go for it. It's not as hard as you think it is.
That competitor tracking is interesting. It's a cool use case. Curious, like we're hearing a lot more in marketing about the shift in focus to AI search and optimizing for visibility and for reputation management and all those sorts of things. How has that changed how you approach sort of like demand gen and top of funnel type tactics?
Yeah, I think that's still a very like greenfield type area. OpenAI keeps changing their algorithm all the time. It's not like Google search, right? So one day you hear it's all about Reddit and it's like you want to be cited in Reddit, and then the next week you hear it's not Reddit anymore, it's actually YouTube. So it's hard, right? Because like they keep changing the ranking logic behind the scenes pretty frequently. It seems like the algo changes. So I think what that means, at least what that means for us, is we realized we needed an AI visibility app. So we're literally shopping around as we speak, and we have like two good solutions, two good SaaS applications, which would help us basically like track that AI visibility index and all the channels over time. That way, it's not a bet on like, okay, let's do Wikipedia now because we think that's the main channel to rank high on AI, but we actually would have like an actual score over time, which then gives us the breakdown by channel. So I think we're moving away from a bit of I think it's Wikipedia and YouTube, but I'm not sure. We're moving to like a slightly more like data driven scientific approach, but that's gonna require us to purchase an AI search app.
Yeah. Would you be open to sharing which ones you're kind of?
Yeah, man, for sure. One of them is called Right Sonic. Right Sonic. They come from like AI content creation, like Jasper and Copy AI and Writer.com and all these guys, and they pivoted a couple of months ago to like be an AI visibility and AI content creation app. And we've had a good, successful POC with them. So we're in pricing negotiation right now. Right, Sonic. It's a good app. Check it out if you're listening to this.
I actually have one other follow-up question on that, which is, I think even with some of those AI analytics, the kind of tracking apps, like it's a start toward being able to measure progress over time, at least directionally. One of the things I've noticed is that so much of it varies based on, it's not a targeted set of keywords anymore, right? It's this like endless expanse of potential prompt journeys, right? So I've seen, even looking at for ourselves, for example, like I'll see some visibility scores based on a certain set of prompts that we're actually, we look really good in. And then there's others where we're completely invisible. And it's almost hard to calibrate and understand what prompts actually matter. Not just, it's not like there's a clear set of top of funnel, clear set of mid funnel, clear set of bottom funnel. It feels like there's just kind of an infinite number of things that you could optimize for. I'm curious how you think about that and kind of like honing in on actually measuring what matters.
Yeah, I think that you're totally right. Like the prompt set can completely differ and is very subjective, right? Like you actually don't really know. But what's interesting now is that you have prompts about the prompts, and you can actually it's all super inception level type of AI stuff, right? But you can come up with like the top 50 prompts and whatnot. But it still remains for us. We said, okay, these are the prompts, and they might not be the right ones, but we will never know. What we don't want to do is change the prompts every now and then, because then it becomes a moving target, right? Like if you have 50 prompts one given month, and this is your AI visibility index, you change the set of prompts the next month, your index you're just not going to be able to compare it month over month. So we said, let's assume that this is a decent, good enough set of prompts, and then hopefully that captures where we rank in the AI search, even if you go with another prompt that we wouldn't have been using. So I think what's key here is just have a stable set of prompts you keep using month over month, and then that's how you track movement Otherwise, it's a moving target thing, and you cannot win with that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, just the behavioral changes are so interesting because, you used to be solely like in work mode when you were searching for something like what's a product that does this, or what's the best product for this, or what's an agency that does this. And now it's like people are just literally at a red light. They're pulling up their phone. They're like, what's a product for this? And it's just and they're like talking to the app, right? And it's like, hey, I'm thinking about hiring at this, or I'm thinking about this. Like, what are some options? And it's just the whole just relationship with the tech is different. It couldn't be more different. And I think trying to understand how people talk more to other humans, which is a counterintuitive idea, that might be more helpful than thinking about how people used to type to search engines. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, that's fair. I think there's like insights to be gained or gathered from like the actual thinking of what would be a good prompt. How would people search for things? How do they do their own research and their own evaluation? For sure, it just forces you as a marketer to just put yourself in the shoes of your buyer, which I know is something everybody says we should do, but it's really hard, and sometimes we don't do it. We're just being lazy, and we stay on the easy side, and we don't put ourselves in their shoes as much. So it's a good forcing function for that, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I noticed you talk about positioning and POV quite a bit, um, which I think is important, especially now in an age where product conversion is more of a thing than ever before. And, as we just talked about, AI is playing a huge role in how messaging is conveyed to users. And so my take on things is that the stakes have never been higher than they are right now to have a really good perspective, really good POV, and be able to cut through the noise. Um, how do you how do you approach the development of a perspective slash POV, and where do you believe that Cordials is strong?
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about this thing for like hours and hours, and then it'd be beer time here at some point. So I'll try to keep it short, but I think you're right. Everybody can get to 80% with AI, like that, and everybody can use AI, right? So it's like you don't differentiate on like your content or your programs or your things are 85% when the competitor is 75%. Like that's not the win. The win is now how you go from 80 to 90, and then from 90 to 93, 94, 95, and you're going to win that deal or that attention battle if you're at 96 and others are going to be at 95.5. Like it's that close, right? Like the playing field has been leveled. It's with AI. It's just a fact. So I think for me, I come from like category design type of school of thoughts. I don't know how much that still is valid today with AI, but that's always been kind of like my thought process. So I think to nail your POV, it starts with nailing your villain. You need to pick a villain. Good old Hitchcock quote, which is the movie is only as good as the villain is, or whatever. So that's what it is. And so at Gong, for example, back in 2020, opinions was our villain, and then we would help teams move from opinions to reality. That was the shift, the old versus new way, opinions to reality. Then at Clary, 2 years after, our villain was revenue leak, which is a weird term, by the way. But I kind of like the fact that it's weird and kind of like disgusting, because people will be like, oh, revenue leak? And then it's like, yes, this is exactly the type of reaction I want from you. Like, I want you to like jump off your seat and think it's disgusting, because it is. And revenue leak would go from revenue leak to what it was again, revenue precision. That was the before and after. So net, I'm a little rambly here on this one, but it's like, you every POV sounds the same, and AI gets you to 80%. So you still need a lot of human thinking, a lot of creativity, a lot of curiosity to really deeply think through what your villain of your story should be. And that's how you architect the POV, and that's how you don't sound like everybody else.
I'm curious. We hear these terms thrown around a lot. Like, we talk about having a unique perspective or POV. We talk about that as it relates to your positioning. We talk about this broad idea of storytelling as a brand storytelling. What do you see as like kind of what's the taxonomy there between those things, and like what's most important to focus on for a brand?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked that question, because I see people use these terms completely interchangeably. Like it's all the same thing to them, which is cool because it just means there's always a need for more education, which is why we're doing this, right? Yes, like positioning is not the same as messaging, which is not the same as storytelling, which is not the same as POV. So um, uh, let's see. Again, it could be a long discussion, but at the core of it, everything starts with positioning. You need to take a position. It's your strategic choice. Where do you stand in the market? Why do you stand it for? Who are you? Like that's just the beginning of all the things, and then you can think of storytelling as the packaging around that positioning, right? Like positioning is uh, your identity, and if it's weak, then the best storytelling will always just amplify the confusion. Uh, Positioning is the embryo. Storytelling is the microphone to that thing. So if your positioning is strong, the story is going to amplify and reach more, audiences. But if the positioning is weak, even if the story is good, it's not going to land, or it's going to harm you more than you think. So positioning always comes first, and then messaging, which is how you describe yourself, and then the POV and the storytelling around it, which is how you tell that story of this is the villain, this is why this thing matters today, and this is the solution to the villain, and this is the expected outcome from using our solution. So it's that arc.
Yeah, to sort of underscore that too, it's not just hurting you because it creates confusion for the consumer. Now we see that those mixed messages in AI search means it's not even confident in surfacing you, right? So like you become not just a confusing entity, but a completely invisible one if that's where people are looking for you.
Agreed. Exactly.
So, shifting gears a little bit here to talk about your brand. I came across you on LinkedIn because I believe you have a strong personal brand. You put out good content. Why does that matter? And in this day and age, and is it just a personal kind of passion project and something you're doing for personal upside, or is it something that's helped Cordial as well?
Excellent question. It's not just personal. It's helped Cordial as well, and it's helped me. I would say at the beginning was so random. I was at Clary at the time, maybe 2 years ago. I was not posting anything on social, on LinkedIn, but Devin Reed, who's like a LinkedIn celebrity, was on my team, and I was on Kyle Coleman's team, and he's also a LinkedIn celebrity. And I was like, oh man, I'm kind of like stuck between like that guy, and they're like so popular. So I felt some FOMO, and I was like, dude, I got to start posting myself. And that's kind of how it started, which is not the most noble entry point, but that's how it started for me. A bit of FOMO, or like internal competition, if you will. Great dudes, by the way. They're both my friends. And I started like liking it. And I think what I liked most was the idea of writing as a way to structure your thinking, and also to not forget stuff. Like we're all forgetful, right? We go from one thing to the other in life, at work, everywhere. And so it's so easy to like sort of lose your best practice and your aha and your insights if you don't put pen to paper and write it down. So the process of writing for me has always been a way to express my thoughts, structure the thoughts, and then remember the thoughts. That's why I've enjoyed it so much. And I think it's, as you said, it's now also helping kind of like distributing or like amplifying the Cordial voice as well. But when you look at my LinkedIn, it's mostly Julian level stuff, and it's a little less corporate-y. So it's not vanity. I don't do that to feel good about myself. I don't need that to feel good about myself. I'm pretty happy dude overall. I do that to, as I said, think, remember, and reach a broader audience.
How do you think about the difference kind of between you're obviously doing, marketing for Cordial and then your own personal stuff, and those things overlap, but do you have a distinct voice for each of those that you feel like you're conscious of, that are distinct from each other, or?
No, I have. It's always the Julian voice with my weird French accent. You like it, you don't. It's fine. If you don't like it, pass your way, and we'll stay friends. Like that's my. So yeah, no, it's always my voice. I want to stay authentic and true to who I am. I would say, I think if your personal voice and your company's voice or values don't align, you actually have a bigger problem. It's almost like if you have to tweak your own voice to make it sound like your company, man, that means that maybe you're not as aligned with your company's values as you think you were, and that would be a bit of a red flag. So yeah, no, for me, I'm trying to keep things very grounded and real. When I talk about Cordial, it's never like, oh, we just had our sales kickoff last week and it's awesome, blah, blah, blah. Here's why, because no one cares, right? It's always like, we had our sales kickoff last week and I learned a few things. These are the things I want to share with everybody, hoping they will be valuable to you. So always keep that, outside in, what's in it for me, POV in mind, whether you're posting on your behalf or on your company's behalf.
We touched on kind of how the role of the CMOs changed and where it's at now. Where do you think it's going, and what do you think is going to matter most for CMOs and for companies that hire CMOs in the next, let's say, 3 years or so?
I would say CMO role is going closer to capital allocation, like closer to where the budgets are being discussed, closer to product and to the tech, as we mentioned, closer to the workflows and closer and deeper into the AI systems. That's my overall take. So it's, as I said, it's less the Uber master overlord of campaigns, and it's more about being sort of like relevant from a structural or even existential standpoint.
Are there some things that you're starting to see, maybe like the edges of, that will need to be an area of focus for CMOs in the future?
So I would say it's going to be such a safe answer, but so I'm sorry for not being more thought provoking. But I think the agentic stuff is, agents are the new AI, right? Like everybody now gets AI chats and content creation and distribution with AI. Like that's just easy. It's become table stakes. Even custom GPTs, everybody can code a custom GPT. It's so damn easy. So I would say learning the agent way, getting to think about new workflows, automating the existing workflows, coming up with new workflows, like that's where the whole industry is going. So the CMO, like any other exec, has to embrace the agentic era for sure. And I know that sounds like the Salesforce headline, aka bullshit, but it's for real. Like if you don't get the agent side, you're gonna miss out. So you better get started today.
Just before we wrap, one question that came to mind. What's something that you're seeing right now? It's funny, a lot of our conversations shift to LinkedIn, or at least we talk about LinkedIn, because it seems like that's just where marketers hang out and spend a lot of their time. What's something that you're seeing on LinkedIn right now that you're like, I love this, I want to see more of this? And what's something you see on LinkedIn right now and you're like, I can't wait for this to be over?
I'll start with the second one. Like comments, playbook down in the comments, like that clickbait thing. I cannot stand. I just cannot stand. Literally, yeah, there's no words. Just like I've tried so many times to comment and like be playbook, so that person sends me the AI playbook, and I never received anything in my inbox. So I think it's complete BS, and I hope it just stops. And do you agree?
Yeah. I was gonna say, I thought you were gonna say AI comments, just like the auto-generated comments, but
Yeah, AI comments is a different one, right? Like the bots writing comments, but to me, it's more like the like the clickbait of like you have to comment on the post so that you get the playbook. I think that's just something I enjoy. Um, I don't know. It's a good question. I don't. There's nothing net. I don't think LinkedIn changes their platform that often. So it's less about the platform itself, and it's more, I guess, discovery is a good one. I still feel like I'm discovering new voices and new people to follow on a weekly basis. I actually am, and so I'm excited for that. It's an endless well of knowledge and ideas to tap into, and I kind of like that.
Well, Julian, it's been awesome having you on. For people that want to find you online, learn more about you, maybe reach out to you, where's the best place for them to do so?
And we just said it. It's going to be on LinkedIn. It's the only social media I'm on because I'm too old for any of the newer stuff. So LinkedIn is where I hang for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Julian.
Thanks for having me.